Hey everybody, okay, I'm back with the second video. Okay, it wasn't in the week, but still it's kind of close. Here we go. Gonna try to get a couple done shortly. All right. So today's video is gonna be about what I promised, the stuff that bosses can do and do to sabotage your work. All right. So, but before I get there, I just want to address a couple of things very briefly. So I'll take maybe a minute or two to do this. All right, some of the things I say on my channel are pretty ugly, but they're real and they're authentic and they're honest. I'll give you an example. In my last video, I said people love watching other people get ripped apart and that we're not so far from the days of the Colosseum. Now, I know it's a jarring thing to say, and people were like, wow, I'm not like that. I mean, how could you say that about people, right? Now, I'm not like that either. And so you got to understand when I speak that way, I'm not talking black and white. I'm not saying every single human is like this and we all carry this. We definitely don't. I know I don't. I want to see the best happen to people. That makes me feel good because I'm an empath. But you don't have to be an empath not to enjoy watching people get ripped apart. Okay? But there are a lot of humans out there who do. We have a sick, narcissistic society, folks. I'm really sorry. Where they're the top dogs. And people aren't giving love. I don't think most people even know that love or what love is. All right? And that it's this amazing vibration that you have or you don't. Again, that's opinion. All right? So that's beyond observation. That's what I fundamentally believe and feel. So if you're devoid of love, you got to fill that hollow with something else. And oftentimes people look for power to fill that void. And love, and when we talk about self-love, it's extremely important that you understand what that stuff is. Again, I touched on it briefly. I'll get back there. But I just wanted to address that. So I don't mean all people love watching other people get ripped apart. Okay? But I'll tell you something. What it does mean is that it's based on this general observation beyond the mobbing that any one of us who is even partially awake can see. It's in our mainstream media. All right. The purchase of gossip magazines, the popularity of all kinds of entertainment-based stuff and entertainers in particular. All right. So who had plastic surgery? You know what? Who's getting a divorce? Oh my God. Did you see what she's wearing? Ridiculous things like this. So you got to stay awake to this. It is part of our culture and part of our reality. As sad as it is. It just is what it is. So real isn't always pretty. Now, to me, it's good to know what real is, however, in order to navigate what I consider this matrix of ours. That's what it means to trust your instinct. You see, one of the most interesting parts for me in my story, post-mobbing, is that I stopped seeing the good in people. Now, because I stopped seeing the good in people, it doesn't mean I stopped seeing all good in all people and that I only concentrate on the bad. It doesn't mean that at all. What it means is that I see the real in people. We're a mix of good, bad. Certain values are not going to be in line with mine or yours. Not all values are the same, etc., etc. But I feel what I feel from someone, and I trust my instinct. And I am right to do so. And this is why I keep talking about instinct as well. You got to hone it, and you got to trust it. All right? And it's hard to trust your instinct when you're in fight or flight mode. This is why pulling away from a situation is really important. And rewatch or watch The Matrix. Check it out. And you'll see when I say that I've red-pilled it, and some of us have red-pilled it, it means seeing things for what they are. And I find that's very important. Now, back to the topic at hand, all right? Now, even though sometimes your mobbers aren't going to be your bosses, they can be just colleagues. It could be this lateral violence that is going on. I'll tell you from my experience. Again, it's my story, and share yours. I want to hear it and start channels and maybe we can support each other or whatever. But here we go. Typically what it is, it's a very envious colleague and a middle manager. Could be a top dog too. A middle manager, an envious colleague who wants you out. Either you have information about them that they don't want, they're afraid that you're going to spread it around. And that's, part of it, because people tell me all kinds of things about themselves, even though I don't want to hear it and I don't want to know it. All right. So, but that's another story. It's like the personal part. But here we go. So I'm going to keep it as general as I can for now. All right. So typically someone in middle management could be someone in higher management as well. Because if it's just your colleagues doing this, like I said, yes, it means you have very bad management if they're getting away with this kind of behavior that eats up so much time and money. All right. But in an actual mobbing and not just a bullying situation, they're trying to push you out. Okay, so maybe those lateral violence colleagues of yours go talk to management and talk bad about you and lie and all kinds. That's a possibility too. But for me, it was always a middle manager who was directly involved. So allow me, here we go. Number one thing that they can do before the mobbing begins. Remember, mobbing is a planned series of events. All right. And it's not that there are a bunch of masterminds. Typically, it's one or two narcissists who want to force you out. And although there is no honor among thieves, as they say, what happens is they enlist the help of people around them. Okay. And those people will never talk. They'll never tell. They're afraid it's going to happen to them. They're cowards. They see the brutality. They don't want it happening to them. Remember, and I'm talking from experience, I was a bystander. It made me sick to my stomach. And I felt it. It was horrible, but it's the truth. Here we go. Number one, coming from one of my viewers. They may enlist the help of others to befriend you for the purposes of information gathering, to find out what makes you tick, unless they already know. This is added to the smear campaign thereafter, to try to bring you to your knees emotionally, to try to bring you down. So say you disclose some personal information to someone. They'll tell that boss or manager. They'll tell each other, and the smearing begins. Okay? Remember, here, I had told you about my experience where it was actually a colleague. He wasn't a higher up, but he was enlisted by the top dog, if you will, to ask me if I was okay after they had started gaslighting me, right? And even though I knew what was going on, so I was okay. I wasn't happy, but I was okay. Are you okay? Are you okay? And then going around and talking to other people, saying, that I didn't look okay and I didn't seem okay. All right? So stuff like that. Number two, freeze you out of the workplace loop. Forget to send you emails about team meetings. Keep you out of the loop with respect to new opportunities. That happened to me. All right? New methods that have been implemented in the team, etc. Now, if you do find out, or if all of a sudden you get a file back and you're like, oh, it didn't pass, well, hold on, did something change? And you go see them. Typically, when they're confronted, they will deny. Oh, yeah, they'll say something like, I forgot to include you on that email, but I remember discussing it with you last week. Yeah. This is why it's really good to journal, folks, because you can always say, well, I've been journaling. Allow me to go and check that date. You talked to me about it on Tuesday, did you? Hold on a second. That's why I think it's amazing to keep a journal. One of the many reasons. In any case. All right. In addition to doing this, sometimes, again, from personal experience, number three, they'll give you extra work or work that does not count towards your daily tasks. My tasks were monitored. So we each had like a baseline of files that we were expected to do. Anything above and beyond that was kind of like a bonus. All right. So all of a sudden, I'm getting this extra work. They may present it in a way whereby you feel special for having received this assignment. Big manipulation, folks. Or they may tell you that everyone else was too busy, but the work must be done. That was my case. And they don't give you the right of refusal. So if you bring up the question about, well, what happens with my monitored workload? Does this stuff count? They'll say something like, well, I notice you haven't really been playing for the team lately. This is a team environment. It's that kind of passive-aggressive stuff. They know you know, all right? But it's done to kind of drive you batty. It's part of that whole gaslighting thing. Okay, they'll withhold any and all praise or recognition for a job well done. Okay, during and throughout my mobbing, my work, if anything, got better. I didn't have to interact. I did not, and remember, INFJ, so by nature, I'm an introvert. Put my earplugs in, did my work, did a lot more files than I normally did. That's when the slowdown started happening and I started getting extra work off the roster. And one of the higher ups actually said, when I told her, I said, well, yeah, I think I'm being bullied. she said something like, oh, but your work hasn't suffered. It was a really weird response. Okay, they don't want to hear that from you, but that's another story. Okay, so they'll withhold any and all praise or recognition for a job well done. Another thing that can happen, and has happened, they'll put you on the spot in meetings. They might ask you what you would do given a particular situation, without giving you all of the necessary initial information that you might have missed during that group meeting that you weren't invited to. Okay, say for instance, certain protocols and procedures changed. They know you don't know. They'll put you on the spot in a meeting. They do it. They know you'll answer wrong, and they'll do it to make you seem incompetent. Too bad, but that's the way it is. If you submit your work directly to them, they may also modify it prior to forwarding it. And I suspect that was done with my work, but I'm not entirely sure of that. But one thing that I do know is that as I was forwarding this work, it wasn't getting forwarded from my boss to the higher up. And now the reason that I know this is because I did maintain contact with one of the upper managers throughout this. So those are just a few of the dirty tricks that happen when you're in for a mobbing and you're getting mobbed. Now remember, typically by this stage, you're bamboozled, fight or flight or freeze is on all the time. Your colleagues are smearing you. This is like that level 3 to 4 thing when it comes to the whole mobbing. So when I tell people, get yourself out of there as soon as possible. Spare yourself and save yourself. A lot of people say, no, I am immune, or, you got to stick it out. You could do what you want, folks, but I'll tell you what. If you love yourself, okay, and you're aware and awake, save yourself. It's just a job. You can and will get another job. I know what happens. A lot of the times, yes, the gang stalking happens afterwards. I will do a video about this, all right? But when I tell you mobbing is a time and place specific event, it is. It is. Now, depending on how much you are despised, okay, and what type of organization you are working for, can it spread to your new job? Depends on how badly they want you down. And it depends on, and typically that means you are one hell of a threat to them, okay? But typically what happens is when you leave the organization, even though they're not quite done with you yet, if you put in certain stops, you can mitigate a lot of the interior, soul freaking sucking damage that could potentially be done to you. All right? For me, like I said, it was 7 years. 7 years too long. All right? It's up to you guys. If you want to stick it out, when this kind of stuff starts to happen, not only is it your reputation that's going down the tubes, it's your taste for the job itself. To me, the coward's way out was being a bystander. That's what I felt, but that's just my character, right? If you think that you want to stick it out and that's how you want to spend years of your life, I can't stop you from doing that. I just personally don't recommend it. Because I'll tell you this, life gets really good and really interesting when you start to absorb all of this stuff, understand it, and take that red pill, folks. All right, so I'm off. I know, no makeup, no nothing today, but it's coming. I'll look good for the next video. As good as possible. All right, you guys, I wish you a great day. Foxy D, signing off. Namaste.